So I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Thank you all for attending. And I'd like to start with approval of the minutes from July 18th and the 24th. Is there a motion to approve those two sets of minutes?
Did I hear you say July? Did you mean January?
I said, I'm not sure what I said. I did mean January, although I'm thinking in summertime these days. But yes, let's stay on the calendar. So let's go with January 18th and January 24th.
I so move.
Is there a second? Okay, so Janet, I think you're still muted.
Yep, sorry, I second.
Okay, great, thank you. So any discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Communications, just one communication I'd like to say is that we are getting some winter weather. We're having another storm scheduled for this end of this week. Thanks to the town crew for doing a good job. The last storm, I know they even went beyond the call and helped change a tire for a stranded motorist. Glad to hear that extra effort. But also, we do have a call list. If people would like to be called in the time of a power outage or a storm, we do maintain a call list for people for winter or other emergencies. So if we know if people have are feeling that they need to be checked on, we do that. We don't provide any medical care or whatever, but we do check on people. So if people would like to be on that call list, please call the Selectman's office and we'll be glad to add you to that list. Anything else on communications? Addition to the agenda, I had two. One is Steve McDonald on WMC on the wastewater, West Cornwall wastewater project, USDA grant reapplication. And the second thing was mobile healthcare in Cornwall. So is there any other additions?
None for me.
There's a second to those. Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So let's see. First on our agenda is COVID-19 update. We are beginning to see things break in the right direction. The positivity rate is down statewide to around 7% from over 20%. Even 7% would be considered high until we had this latest surge. And the virus is very much still in our area and very much in town. I heard today from two people requesting test kits, saying that they or a family member had tested positive. So those are still available. If people go to the website and they can email us at Cornwall COVID tested, Cornwall COVID test at gmail.com.
Actually, just to, sorry to butt in, but it's Cornwall test questions.
Okay.
At Gmail.
Thank you, John. Yes, and people can call the office too if they're not internet happy, and we will get some to you. But the quickest way is to go to Cornwall test questions at gmail.com. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. And again, we're still asking people to take the necessary precautions, and get the best thing people can do is get vaccinated and booster shots. Connecticut is still under half of its population. I think we're 49% of people have gotten boosters. So, and people in the healthcare field are finding that is the best prevention from serious illness is having proper vaccination. So again, thanks for all the people that are helping. Let's get through that. Anything else on COVID? So second item is Board of Selectmen's goals updates. We did pass our goals on December 7th, and I thought probably every 2 months or 3 months, we would go over what our goals are to keep us on track, and just give people an update of what we feel are some of the most pressing issues facing the town. First thing is housing. We did adopt the housing plan, but we need to formulate a committee, housing committee, and we've had a couple people volunteer for that. So again, that will be one thing. One of our next steps is to form a housing committee and try to appoint a housing advocate in town. So we will be doing our part for that. And if any board members have any questions or comments as we go down our list, be glad to talk about that. Number 2 is healthcare. Sharon Hospital is going to be getting a lot of attention, our attention, other people's attention. There was a letter in the Lakeville Journal last week from a doctor at Sharon Hospital, Dr. Kirsch, highlighting some of the issues at Sharon Hospital. I did talk to our state representative, Maria Horn, this afternoon about issues, and she said that the hospital has filed to change their certificate of need and drop maternity services at the hospital. And there will be an organized effort by elected officials in Connecticut and New York to oppose that, try to think of constructive alternatives to reducing the offerings of the hospital. So that will be front and center. And her current thing is there is a time clock for this review by the state, but it's unclear exactly what the time clock is and how long that review period is, and what's the most effective way for elected officials and citizens to participate in that review of this proposal by the state. So that is very important. Let's see, increased need for psychological support. Again, one thing that came out of our ARPA recommendations was to perhaps increase the amount of funding for Greenwood's counseling, because we are very aware of the need for their services. So we are staying in touch on that. So then next thing is the safety net. The pantry is back in person work as of yesterday afternoon, with a full list of people that need those services. Is there anything else on healthcare? I know we did
Yes.
We did. Yes. Janet, I know we did it. Yes.
Okay, so it was bring more healthcare services to town. So being able to add primary care services, pharmacy services, potentially dental services, and more mental health services.
Okay. So do you have any updates on that?
I do.
I know we did put that on our agenda, but it might be just as good to put things out under this heading.
Yes, I can give you a quick update. So I spoke to the CEO of Community Health and Wellness yesterday. Joanne, and her last name is escaping me right at the moment. Yeah, sorry, it's escaping me right at the moment. She has mobile health services. The van is called Betty. Forgive me, it's been a long day and the acronym not coming up with that either. But it's basically, bringing healthcare in a mobile fashion to different towns. It's right now they have an ambulance that is outfitted to be able to take patients in, and they can provide primary care services there. One of the things we had talked about was to have that mobile unit parked, potentially by the union, and be able to provide services, where people could wait inside and be warm, and then be able to go out to a diesel powered mobile office. We had also talked about potentially offering vaccine clinics and testing facilities on set days during the week. So we are continuing that conversation. She is calling me back. I have invited her to the February 22nd Selectmen's meeting. So Deborah will come and present and talk more about that, and we'll have a better plan in place. Secondly, I'm working with an APRN, advanced practice registered nurse, who has her own mobile business and is very interested in having a day or so in Cornwall a week. So we're working on that. I'm actually meeting with her on Friday, and we are actually going over to UCC to see what medical equipment we can get to kind of set up for her space to work. So that is, and she's very eager to do it. Her goal is to get that started in March.
Great. So, well, those are two very exciting proposals. That's some of the first clinics or, primary care the town will have had in over 30 years since Anna Tamel closed her office here. So again, I think that's great. Whatever we can do to publicize it. I mean, as people, are, have their healthcare patterns, we would try to assist them and letting people know this is available. It might be great to start with a, booster clinic or whatever.
Yes, that was
but
my
I'd hate to have
feeling too.
Yeah, I'd hate to have them come and nobody show up. So anyway, but we'll keep. Let's see, maybe even if you can get some details by mid-February. If you can do stuff in March, it would be great to get something in the Chronicle or whatever to get. As I said, that's a big thing that we've been working on for a long time, trying to get it so people don't have to travel out of town to get these necessary services. Is a huge. I mean, not only is environmental, you save gas, but it especially it's great if you have a town where you don't have to drive to somewhere else to get your essentials.
Well, there may be a possibility too. The APRN is potentially offering in-home care. So there may be an opportunity where she would actually go to someone's home and provide the services on site. So that's something we're working on also, is to kind of balance that and be able to have a mobile space where she could be and people could come in for appointments. They could do walk-ins also. There is the whole system to check in. There would be someone to greet you and either give you an appointment, or if you're a walk-in, set that up. Or if someone needed care at home, then that could be arranged too. So it is really exciting.
Good. Well, thank you for pursuing that. Priscilla, any questions?
No, sounds good. Just listening.
Yeah, the
Okay.
other piece of that, Gordon, is that the APRN would be able to dispense. So for example, if someone came in, wasn't feeling well, turned out they had pneumonia, she would be able to give them antibiotics. So they wouldn't have to travel to go get needed prescriptions. And it might be where it's something where that could hold them a few days or a full prescription. But that's something else that we're trying to set up so that people don't have to travel. They just either can be seen in their home or can be seen quickly and get the medicines they need quickly without further travel or distress.
Good. All right. So anything else on healthcare?
That's pretty good for now.
That's a good bit of work. Good.
True.
So number 3 on our list is the West Cornwall wastewater plan. hopefully with a vote in the spring. Did ask and receive a proposal from Steve McDonald, the engineer, who's been working with the study group to reapply to the USDA for funding. And I think I mentioned one of our last discussions, I have talked to Congresswoman Hayes's office, and they're optimistic that they may get a budget passed in February in Congress, which would cover this type of grant opportunity. But in addition to that, we may need a bridge loan from USDA, and they may give us a grant on top of whatever we get from the Community Projects Fund. So Steve's able to reapply to USDA and for a cost that would not exceed $5,000. And we do have about a little bit over $10,000 left in that account. So that was an agenda item, but I think we can address it here while we're still sharp. And so I
You said
make
the
a
cost
motion,
is not to exceed $5,000. Is that what you said, Gordon?
yes, for his reapplication to USDA.
Okay, got it.
And he's going to charge us on an hourly basis. It may not be that much, but that's his ballpark. So I would make a motion that we would authorize him to reapply to USDA and get us in line for that while we're waiting for Congress to figure out the other part of the funding formula. Is there a second on that?
Second,
Is there any discussion?
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
When would the vote be expected on that? Do you have a date?
Well,
for
we
that?
really can't. We have to hear from Congress to find out what our grant funding is. The
Okay.
USDA would sort of be, so the sequence of events would be, if we hear from Congress, then we can schedule our vote. We can't get the USDA bridge loan until we have a town affirmative vote.
Got it.
So we have a lot of the legal work done on that from the bond council. So
Right.
we can vote fairly soon after we get that. And again,
Okay.
we have endorsements from planning and zoning and from the Board of Finance. We'd have to go back to the Board of Finance when we get the actual dollar figures. But once we hear from Congress, we'll have hopefully a firm number. If Congress decides not to do anything for the Community Projects Fund, then we go back to the USDA as a primary grant source in addition to a loan. Then we have a vote to authorize the work. Then Steve can get going on the real engineering part of it. And then while he's working on that, he has to apply to the DEP, EPA, a bunch of other agencies to get environmental reviews and engineering reviews of the project. So that will take about a year, develop plans and get review done. So, and we have to spend money. So what we can do is either finance that out of some of the town's reserves, or else we'll finance things for the USDA bridge loan. So then once we get all the engineering, we get the bid documents, go out to bid, and then the work starts. And I believe, and then we'll go out to bond. And I'm not sure if we go out to bond once. I don't think we can go out to bond until we get that a firm bid in hand. Because of course, with construction prices jumping around, you're not quite sure what that's going to be. So again, we can't bond until we get a contract. We can't get a contract until we get the engineering. So, and that would take about a year. So there's this, there's a sequence of events that we're close to following. Is that the latest holdup is hearing from Congress. And then once we do get that, we have to work and nail down our explanatory text to the town and, bring it in front of a town meeting. So I would say now, it's going to be at least 3 months preparation from the time that we hear to the time we vote, because there's just a bunch more calculations and work and legal sign offs that have to happen. But, it's all, and plus information hearings have to happen in front of the vote. But anyway, we're ready to go as soon as we just hear this piece. Any other questions on that?
No,
Steve's
thank
work?
you very,
Yeah. Okay, so I know Priscilla's been at all the meetings. Any questions, Priscilla?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay, still
Scheduling.
trying to move forward.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So, all right. So the motion is to authorize WMC engineers to reapply to USDA for us for an amount not on an hourly basis, not to exceed $5,000 total. So all those in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
aye.
Okay, unanimous. Next big project is the update on the transfer station. And again, we hope to start the building process. I know Jim has gotten the building permits, when the weather breaks. And a big thing that this board will have to do, is we've got a proposal from Mira, which is the trash company or trash consortium that the town is in contract with to get rid of our garbage. We have to decide whether to go with them on a five-year basis where they would truck stuff out of state. And we don't really have a great alternative, although I will be asking around to other towns to see what their sentiment is. But you have a copy of that. We just got that today, Federal Express, so we'll put that on our agenda for next meeting because we have to act by the end of March. And so that's one thing that's coming up with that. And I have pushed at our Council of Governments, Northwest COG, and at the Council of Small Towns that our legislature consider using some of the infrastructure grant, the billions of dollars the state is getting from the federal government for infrastructure. I think this would be really good to have the state set aside some of that money for a permanent solution in-state solution to our garbage problems, because obviously trucking all our garbage to a faraway place is not a sustainable or economic or environmental solution. So there seems to be some idea that might, be a good idea. And again, we're talking to our legislators about that idea. We put money in our budget for next year for composting. If we can get a program together, I talked to Ted about getting a meeting together with the other transfer stations and see if we can get on a pickup and do a pilot program for composting of food scraps. So we are pursuing that. We're focusing in on number 5, transfer station, improved internet service, weekly communications from Optimum about upgrading the fiber optic lines that I heard from a person from Goshen that's been active in Goshen, internet broadband committee, about getting a multi-town meeting together with Optimum to start answering some questions about that. So I'm working with some people that served on the internet committee before to get some questions and involve them in the process. Any other questions on internet things? That seems to be moving along quickly. They are talking about pulling building and land use permits for the cabinets that we put in place before they start stringing cable. So it sounds like that's moving along quickly. Any questions about that?
So what is their time frame for actually launching that service? Do they have an
Well,
estimate?
I think their first thing is they're talking to our land use administrator about getting permission to put cabinets in, 3 cabinets that would serve the town. And one in, yeah, and I can't remember exactly where those locations are. But they are talking about pulling those permits, which they have to have before they apparently pull the cable, but it sounds like they're gonna start stringing cable this year and get the, cabinets up, so I'd be surprised if we didn't see some fairly quick action in 2022.
Okay,
And again, that's one of the reasons we're gonna have a multi-town meeting to find out from them what their schedule is and some other questions that may come up.
excellent.
ARPA funds, we reported last meeting that we have started to disperse some of those to some of our nonprofit organizations and businesses, so that process has begun. Number 8 is support implementation of the 2020 Plan of Conservation Development, and we had a good meeting review of that plan, which we do annually, last Thursday night. I believe that's been recorded and is available for people that want to read or watch all the presentations that were made from various town agencies and commissions on a variety of topics. So that's happening. Again, supporting volunteer organizations in town. I think hopefully some of the ARPA funds will strengthen some of our volunteer organizations in town, which are very important. And again, continue to attract new residents and businesses. I think the Economic Development Committee is met and they've charted a course to do some practical things. And again, we try to keep the trend going to get more people to come to Cornwall. And so far I've been pretty successful. So anyway, just wanted to go over all those issues. Any comments, any thoughts? See, we're seeing some significant progress on quite a few of these different things. So
Gordon, just an update on the new residents and businesses and such. Neil Fraunglass and I finished the strategy that will be presented to the EDC at the next meeting. Just a heads up on that.
okay, good. Yeah. All right. So anything else on goals? I think we're going along. Appointments, we have several appointments to make. Still have some vacancies out there. Thank you for people for volunteering. We have heard from Nancy Barry that she is interested in serving on the Conservation Commission. I know she has for years been an advocate for the environmental health of Cream Hill Lake, and I think she'd be great on that. Michelle Ship. So I suppose let's vote on these one at a time. So I'd make a motion to appoint Nancy Barry to the Cornwall Conservation Commission. Is there a second?
Second. I beat you, Priscilla.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, by the buzzer.
Yep.
Okay, any discussion? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Next, Michelle Ship has volunteered to be on as an alternate for Planning and Zoning Commission. Michelle is currently serving on our Park and Recreation Commission and has been active growing food for the food pantry and has been active helping that out. So, and I know she's attended a lot of meetings about housing and other issues. So I would make a motion to appoint Michelle Ship as alternate Planning and Zoning Commission. Second by Priscilla. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next we have Richard Bramley has volunteered to come back and work on the Board of Assessment Appeals. The former chair, Roger Kane, unfortunately is moving to a nearby town, and we wish him well. Roger spent did a lot of hours helping the town out using his experience in many regards, including being chair of the Board of Assessment Appeals, which probably could be busy this year due to the fact we're doing revaluation. But I will give Roger and the board credit that I know a lot of people contest their tax bills, but we're able to work through the process with our assessors and our boards, and it keeps us and town residents out of court. It's very good to have a fair Board of Assessment Appeals. And thank Roger for his time. And I make a motion that we appoint Richard to the Board of Assessment Appeals, because fortunately enough, in a past time, Richard was on the Board of Assessment Appeals and was actually chair. So, and he certainly knows a lot about the town. So I would make a motion that we appoint Richard Bramley to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
Second.
Discussion? Yeah, so just discussion. Residents should know that they can, appeal their assessment if they feel it's too high or too low. Usually too high. And so there's a process for doing that where your fellow citizens will hear your case, and as well as the explanation from the assessor. And this process happens in March, so it's coming up. So there are notices for this, I believe, in the Chronicle. So if people do want to take advantage of this process, they can. So anyway, so any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, so anyway, thank Richard, and it's very good to have an experienced person do this, because this is the year of reevaluation when these cases tend to come up the most. So again, thank him for stepping up and doing that work. So that's it for appointments. We do still have some appointments to make, especially on the Zoning Board of Appeals and inland wetlands. We have several vacancies on each, but we are doing well filling other things. Okay, so next we have the general catch-all category of Zoom, town commission videos, YouTube, etc. And again, this is a new issue for us in the Zoom age. I did have a good talk with Tom Hennick, our the public communications director for the Freedom of Information Commission, who helped run a public session on the Freedom of Information Act, and he knows requirements for records for municipalities, and is very approachable, very practical in his advice, and he's a great resource for towns to have in order for us to meet our obligations under state law. So I talked to Tom, and I discussed the because I guess one of my primary concerns after our last meeting was to find out exactly what is the town required to do with videos and video recording of town meetings and agency meetings, because I think it's there's more people watching, and this is a great way to have people observe their government in work. And so I guess my first question was, what does the state require as far as recording videos of agency things? I had read the governor's emergency orders, which said the town had to preserve the video or get a transcript of any remote meeting and have that in place on the agency's website within 7 days after the meeting. So Tom told me of some of the nuances of this issue. And the first thing he said was that the governor's emergency orders actually expired and they're replaced by legislation that were passed in the last session. And that legislation concerning this issue is effective until April 30th of this year. So again, things are changing. But where we're at now is legislation that was passed that regulates what the town has to do. It concerns only videos being preserved for totally remote meetings. So if you have an in-person meeting, there's no obligation on the town to record make a video of that meeting or record it or preserve it. If it's a hybrid meeting, you don't have to preserve that record. Now, this is what the state requires, which is different than what we might choose to do, because as I said at the start, I think these records and these videos are very helpful for people. And he said they must be available within 7 days and preserved under current legislation for 45 days on the agency's website, if the agency has a website. And so I told him, and I asked him, I said, Tom, do the thing that's a little unusual about Cornwall, and I have taken some time to look at other towns' websites, that our website is not a usual municipal website. It is run by, it's a community website, which the town supports and participates with, but it is, as far as I know, it's run by a board of directors who do not receive instruction or are not governed by the town. So it's not an official town website, which most of the towns around us have. So he said there's no state requirement for meetings. There's no state requirement for a town to have a website. It's not a mandate that the town has a website. And he said the town can choose a community-run site to store its meetings, videos. But again, an agency has to store them on its website if it has a website. If it doesn't technically have a website, then that would seem to indicate that we don't have to store them. So then that brought up the fact that we have these videos and they're being taken, and we have a website that we don't have to have, and it's being run by volunteers. And so I guess that brings me to the important point, is to thank Richard Griggs for taking these films for years, and to thank the website committee for having a website that I think is really good and has a lot of features to it that ordinary town websites don't. And to thank, Rocco and the website board for hosting that, for hosting the website and spending their volunteer time to do it. So again, the Board of Selectmen could vote to have its own website and have one like other places, or we could vote at if we want to do that in the future. I think at this point, that's something to consider, but I'm certainly pleased with our website personally. And it's our policy to promote remote access to meetings and have people use the website. Generally in a town that has 3 post offices and 3 villages, sometimes it can get confusing. So having 2 or 3 websites might seem a bit confusing to people, but that's just me. But again, I think our big thing is to promote remote access and web use, and have meetings, available for people to look at that can't make the meeting. Like right now, there can be more than one meeting going on at once. Right now, the Wetlands Commission is meeting while we're meeting. And I think I did look at other towns, and I did see, one thing I saw on their websites that I liked a lot was under their categories of agendas, minutes, and videos, there was an index to all the recordings or the minutes of the agenda. So you can go to the Board of Selectmen, and for the last year, you can sort of see, here's the recordings, here are the, this is where you're going to find all this information. You don't have to go through all the pages and pages of things. So I did talk to Rocco about the possibility of doing that, which I think would be a good thing to have. And again, an index of all the agendas, minutes, and videos. Legally required to be agendas and minutes in the town vault, but in actuality, most people are going to find it much handier to go watch this or see them on the website. So that's sort of where I'm at. And I think we did talk to the school, and they are going to put a folder on their webpage, so they will make their videos available. And I believe Jonathan is working with the Economic Development Commission to get people trained to do that. And I've talked to Barbara Herbst on our financial side so that she can record meetings, and same with Karen Nelson. She can record meetings and send them up, so that we will get more boards and commissions videos, if they do remote meetings, up for people to see. So that's as much as I've done this week, but I didn't know if Janet or Priscilla had any further thoughts on things.
I do. Is it okay if I just go?
Absolutely. That's I've talked too much, but
That's okay. It's good information. So, creating a landing page is a nice way to do that, because it doesn't take very long to do it. We create landing pages, it's just easy to do. And it would be a nice place to have where you could index the minutes, the agendas, and the subsequent recording in one place. And it could be fed, automatically. And you could have, along with the landing page, have the Zoom page, so that they're connected. So one is streaming to the other automatically, and then it uploads. So it's a very simplified process. And the software that's required, I believe, is $50. So it's a very inexpensive solution, and it's one that empowers each of these chairs to then record the meeting and automatically have that streaming, and then upload that immediately to be in compliance with the state requirements.
Yeah, I believe I read something from the website committee that said they were in agreement with this. So I would like to make sure people have a chance to give us the input, especially from the website committee. We do have two members of that committee here, Rocco and Richard. Do you have any comments on the, and again, we don't need, my main thing is that we need to have checked in to make sure we're doing what the state requires. And it seems like we've checked that box this week. So then where do we go from here? My goal is to get more videos as easily as possible, accessible to people, and put up there with people trained of how you do that. So at this point, I'd be glad to hear from Richard or Rocco on the web committee. Any comments, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that sounds great, Gordon. I think that's a really sensible approach that's going to strike the right balance. And yeah, I also like the idea about trying to find a better way to kind of archive some of the meetings and agendas in the town side. So it is kind of more clear, because we have gotten some feedback about that in the past as well. So I think that's some great stuff we can look at.
Yeah. So I said, I think some of the, having an index there for at least the last year, and then having an archive function would be really helpful. Okay, thank you, Rocco. Richard, any comments, any thoughts?
I just want to continue doing what I'm doing, and I'll keep my YouTube page going, because it's not just the town board meetings, it's the events and stuff like that. I don't want to give up on. I want to
Sure.
keep doing it.
Absolutely, and I don't think any of this would restrict you from doing that, and certainly you're wider. There's events that you cover that aren't necessarily town events that are really good to have those videos, and there are meetings of town meetings that probably you don't want to sit through, or you may not want
I
to
don't
sit
mind.
through. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of, once you open this thing up, there are a bunch of different boards and commissions out there that sometimes are meeting. So anyway, thank you for your efforts, both of you, and I think we're in a decent place. And again, if we have still not quite sure about the landing page idea, or at least how that works, and maybe we can get some paper explanation of that and run that past what the next practical steps are. So again, we'll get people trained so they can put things up, and we'll get something there. And just to say, I did get a call from a neighboring town, and commenting on how good our webpage was and how thorough it was. And she wanted to know who was responsible for it. So again, a lot of comments, or not a lot, but comments coming from other towns, appreciating the work that gets done here to pull that off. So,
Gordon?
yes, Janet.
So could we ask the website committee to follow up on how they would craft a landing page and a Zoom page that could allow this to happen?
Sure.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. All right. So very good. Thank you. All right. So now our next item is budget. We have completed a draft budget that will be presented at the, I believe it's February 17th meeting of the Board of Finance. Barbara Hertz has plugged in all the numbers that we have given her. There's still a few groups out there we haven't heard from, but we've heard from most of the main players. And if we have another meeting actually before we present to the Board of Finance. So anyway, I don't think John has a copy, and this is again just a draft, but we will be presenting this to the Board of Finance, and we will have a copy available for screenshots of people there. Let's see, there's a couple of highlights in case people have missed our previous episodes. We are seeing some definite places of increase. The biggest increase, yearly increase, people that we'll see will be under insurance, because we're seeing about a projected 8% increase in health insurance. And we as a board voted to extend health insurance to our hardworking on-call social service director. So that has increased that, but I think that is something that's been proven to be very vital in the last 2 years. It was important before, but it's vital now. We're also seeing some of the, as we know, the costs of getting rid of our garbage increase. So you're going to see some increases in cost for sanitation and recycling. And what else? We did do an increase in some of the public safety lines. Fire department want an increase, which again, there's a couple of things that are pushing that, whether it's paying for some paramedic service or some new software or more state requirements. The cost of providing public safety is going up, even though the most of the cost of that is being borne by the volunteers who spend countless hours for the fire and ambulance. And so those total up to about a 4.6% increase of spending overall for the Board of Selectmen. It's offset by a decrease in capital spending. So And there's also a decrease in debt service. So if you take the decreases with the increases, our total increase is about $25,000 at this point, which is less than a 1% increase in budget, which is where we like to be if we can be. But again, trying to push forward some of the things. Now, we did get a request for increase for the chore service this afternoon. We gave them 5,000 last year. They want 10,000 this year. That is primarily because of impact of COVID. So I am going to talk to them about maybe putting an ARPA grant in for that increase, because I think certainly that, again, is a very important service organization, and we have been able to fund that type of increase. So I'd rather try that avenue. So, and we may get other ones as we go along, but I think we've got the rough framework where that we're within where we like to be for a budget. We know next year our high school numbers will be going up probably based on the school census. So Janet, you had your hand up. Question?
Yeah, did that allow for increasing social services to full-time?
Yes, so that is the assumption, is full-time with the health insurance.
Excellent. That is fantastic. Big
Yeah.
deal.
So full-time. Yeah, I know she works. I mean, Heather does a great job. She works weekends, and there are limits on how much she can do all the time, but it acknowledges a lot of extra hour work.
It's good for
Okay.
her and it's good for the town. Both things. It's been a long time coming. I'm really happy to see that.
Yes. Agreed. Good. So any other thoughts on the budget? Thank you both for your work on this. I think it's a good place to be. And so is there a motion to send this draft to the Board of Finance for their consideration later in the month?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. So it's too bad Congress can't be so unanimous on their budget.
Maybe
Anyway,
learn from us.
it'd be nice.
Right.
Next, we have a tax refund recommendation of $803.78 for somebody who was so generous to pay their property tax twice, but that's not necessary. So, although we will take contributions. So I'll make a motion, we grant this tax refund on
Second,
recommendation of our tax collector.
second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Jean. So let's see, next, we had the additions to the agenda. We did deal with, I think, both of those during our goal session, voting to authorize WMC to apply to USDA. And we did have a talk about primary healthcare coming to Cornwall. Any more comments on those items? We are then finished our section. Is there any questions from the public? Comments? Bill?
There we go. I had to unmute. I'd like to applaud the notion that the management of the videos is going to be separate from the town government, which I think is a good idea. The other thing about that is that while the requirement to retain the videos is for 45 days, I would like to see a commitment to retain those videos for a longer period of time, if you have to have a period of time to retain them. Something like 5 years, 10 years, or something of that sort. But that would be my preference, if you could do something like that.
Okay, well, I think you've got some members of the video committee here. And again, another Board of Selectmen may choose to do something differently, but I think at this point, we're content to go along in this direction. So any other comments? Oh, from the press is here. Hello.
Yes, the press has come to life.
Good.
Could you tell me the date of that Board of Finance meeting when you're going to present the budget?
All right, who's got a calendar? I believe it's the third Thursday. which I'm-
Yeah, February
Seven-
February 17th is what you said.
Yeah,
17?
February 17th.
Okay.
That's
and
a
then you
Thursday
said-
night at 7 o'clock.
Okay, and then you said that the selectmen's town budget, let's see, was going to increase by 4.6%.
Yes.
And that it would be offset by a decrease in debt service, and there was something else besides debt service.
Capital spending. We're not
Mhm.
spending as much on capital projects this
Okay.
year, which will help to offset the rise of the other categories.
Good. I'm all set, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, so. All right, so any other public comments? Okay, thank you all for attending.
And one
And-
more,
oh,
Gordon.
one more thing.
Can you just put on for our next meeting that we will have a presentation by Community Health and Wellness CEO, please?
Yes, and I'm good.
And I'll
Right,
make
I
sure
believe-
Jonathan, her contact information so we can invite her to the Zoom meeting.
Right. I believe they already have their van in Sharon and Canaan and
Yes.
Winston, maybe. I'm not sure where else it goes, but maybe they have more than one van. I don't know. Anyway, look forward to that. That'd be good.
And
Thank
could
you.
I have that CEO's name?
Yes, ma'am. I will have to get it to you. I will endeavor to get that to you tomorrow if you don't mind, because I've got that at my
Yeah.
office.
That's fine, okay.
I'm happy to do that, Leila. No problem. I apologize for not having that at hand.
Okay, so I think we're ready to adjourn. All's in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Night.
night.